After all the trouble I had with that dry glue up, I've decided to use this one. I decided to put this one in the steamer. So it's been cooking for about 45 minutes. I've asked Karen to help me, and hopefully it's going to go a little bit easier than the footboard.
Is it hot now?
Yes, it is.
What's that?
So leave it on the deck. And then we see.
Let's go up to 2 on those.
It's been one of those mornings. I'm meant to be down here first thing this morning, take the trim off the footboard. That footboard is so close to being done, I can't stand it. However, as I was shaving this morning, I pulled the plunger and the whole thing broke. So after 4 trips to the big boxes, I got all the parts I needed and fixed that. Similar thing happened last week in the den. The ceiling fan switch stopped working. So another couple hours replacing the switch and fixing it. Fortunately, I can fix it because stuff like that, electricians and plumbers don't want to come out for a couple hours job. It only takes me twice the amount of time. Here's the agenda for this afternoon. Put the trim on the headboard. Karen and I struggling to try to get this trim on this headboard. It was a pain. I'm sure glad I did it with a steamed piece, because I don't think I could have made it had the piece not been steamed. Curve doesn't look as great in this headboard as it does in the footboard, but I think it's even greater. So we've got it clamped up. I used the Gorilla Glue. It did foam, so I've got to deal with that in some spots, but not too bad. Get the clamps off the footboard and the headboard. Look to see what needs to be sanded. Put the trim, last piece of trim, on the headboard here and finish out the legs. This is almost finished, Alyssa. Here's the last piece of trim for the top of this footboard. And it's all clamped up here. I made this by routing the profile on a large piece of poplar and then taking it to the table saw and trimming it down to size. I think it looks good. Some sanding to do here. This is the top of the headboard. These dents right here I'm going to take out with a steamer. I put several Miller dowels in the top here because the top is not going to be seen. I'll cut these even. It's discolored here, but there's no longer an indentation. You can't feel it. It's time to do the final sanding on this footboard here. I've got this fan set up with a filter on it. I'm going to have that on. So a block came from some packing materials. Nice and firm. Even has some tacky on the bottom here. So it's going to make a nice little sanding block here. This is 150 grit. Well, it's another morning here in the shop. Yep. I have a piece of poplar that I milled at the same time I milled the piece for the footboard, and tried to make this bend to dry fit it to make sure it was going to work, and of course it broke. This morning I milled some basswood to the same profile, took it out, routed the edge, brought it back in, cut it to size, and tried to dry fit it, and same results. This piece of basswood was 1 3/4 inches, so I milled the same profile on both sides and then cut both sides out. So the other piece is back in the steam box. I don't want to use the foaming glue on here. If I do, I know it's going to foam up behind this tiny profile here, and that's really going to be hard to sand. The plan is to steam it, clamp it in place. I know I'm going to get some spring back when I take it out of the clamps, but hopefully it won't be beyond pulling it back. That's the plan. Hopefully it'll work. If it doesn't, I do have this smaller profile. It won't look the same as the footboard, but it will conform. I already dry fit it, and it will conform to this curve. So this headboard continues to be a problem child, but we're going to get it worked out here in the next couple of days. The footboard is virtually finished. All I have to do is attach the legs permanently on that. Here we go. Let's give it a try. I've got the break happening right here. Not sure what's going on. This may actually work. There's a little something right there, but it's going to be sanded out and painted over. Whew, got it. This is so small, it's not going to take long to dry. I really like the look of it. I'm going to give it about 15-20 minutes and then put some glue on it before it decides it wants to break. Putting on a little primer on the back side. This piece of basswood right here is really soft. Basswood's a great wood to carve, and it makes it really soft. So I'm going to put some mid-wax wood hardener on here. What that's going to do is harden this basswood up and make it the same strength as the poplar that's beside it. It doesn't take a lot. The manufacturer recommends that you throw the brush away, so I'm using a little acid brush here. I've got to wait 4 to 6 hours before I can do anything with this, but I'll then give it a coat of primer. This headboard, I haven't sanded everything here yet, but it's mainly ready to go. The legs have been primed and are drying. Let's take a rasp and just clean it up a little bit.